can you set a boundary with a family member? I'm guessing because you're here with me and the video that I made previously, that's maybe in a narcissistic family system. Maybe you are no contact with your parent like I am. I'm no contact with my entire group of relatives on my mother's side and have been for over 30 years. I had no choice but to go no contact with my mother and my grandparents because of child abuse. And because as an adult, they were still, particularly my mother, creating situations for me, traumatizing me, and doing things that I was going to have to heal from. They were also triangulating and weaponizing my children, and there were just all sorts of things going on that go on in these types of family systems. So my daughter, as an adult, because she had memories of my mother up until the age of 6 and my grandparents, and they were fond memories because she was the golden child, not throwing any shade on my daughter whatsoever. That's what she was drawing from. She pursued a relationship with my parents my mother, different stepfather at that point in time, and grandparents and the family, the relatives, the whole 9 yards. And I just said to her, listen, just don't share my life with them. And I don't want to know anything about my mother's life. If you have something you need to talk about in relationship to feelings or whatever, we can talk about anything that you want to talk about. I trusted her to do what she needed to do at that time. Ultimately, she went no contact with my mother, and she has very little contact with anybody else in that side of the relatives. They're not my family. They're just related to me. I can't tell you 100,000% that my daughter never talked about me or my life, because I know my mother as the manipulator that she is, and there's probably times where she pried information out of my daughter that would have mattered to me back then, because back then I still somewhat cared what all of these people thought of me. If it were today, I would only have that boundary in place for awareness because, well, I'm living pretty out loud and I'm pretty sure my mother knows exactly what I'm doing, and I don't care. I'm not afraid of her anymore. I'm not going to be a 9-year-old child anymore. You know, if she comes at me, like she cannot do the things that she used to be able to do when I didn't understand why I could be so impacted before I got to this place of healing where I am now. So now for your question. You can set a boundary for anyone, right? It's about the expectation and what you do in the face of that boundary that's going to be more meaningful for you and keep you safe. We can all make requests of people. I don't want you to discuss my life with other people. I don't want to discuss this person with you. Don't bring them up to me, that sort of thing. And family members, especially in these systems that have difficulty with boundaries and are highly manipulated by whoever the king or the queen of the narcissist are, will be flying monkeys because that's their conditioning. So they may still bring up whoever it is that you don't want to hear about. And it's your job at that point, unfortunately, and fortunately, because it's powerful, to respect your own boundary. So for example, if somebody said, oh, you know, your mother, she asked about you, she's very concerned about you. They love the whole, I'm worried about my daughter. I don't need anything. I just want to know she's okay, as if there's something wrong with us, that we don't want a relationship with someone who harms us. You know, they play that whole game. And it's easy to say, you know what, we're not discussing my mother. And if you insist on that, well, I'm just going to have to go. Or I've got to get off the phone now, or whatever it is. And if they keep insisting, then maybe it might be time to determine what that value is in that particular relationship, because someone who doesn't care for your feelings is not somebody who's safe. You can also say, is there a reason why you keep bringing up this person, my mother, who you know causes me a great deal of pain and anxiety? Do you want to cause me pain and anxiety? Because that's what you're doing right now. So they can see the cause and effect and take ownership for what they're doing. You ask them a question. Is there a reason why you want me to feel uncomfortable right now? Well, I'm relating the message. Don't kill the messenger or whatever. I'm not killing the messenger, but you're hurting me right now, and I'd like to know why. it takes on a completely different tone, and it gives them the opportunity to self-reflect if they have that ability, and chances are they will respect that boundary moving forward. If they don't, then you need to disengage and follow your own boundary that you're not going to tolerate that behavior. Oh, I told your mother the other day that you bought this new house and da 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 da, and now they're not respecting that boundary. And that could be a safety issue depending on your situation. If it's a safety issue, then you really need to look at where you're going with that family member, because they just put you in harm's way, and probably disengage from any news towards them whatsoever. Like, that's done. If it's something more, less important, or there's not a safety issue there, then the question is there a particular reason why you're sharing my information? Do you not have anything better to talk about? You put them on the spot, and again, disengage. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but a lot of times, more times than not, in these family systems, there are very few people who are self-aware enough and responsible and considerate and caring enough to respect the boundaries that seem unnatural to them, because parent-child relationship, like, that should always be intact. And what should always be intact is a parent standing in protection and care of their child, not being a person that child needs protection from, right? So I hope this helps you. I just want you to temper your expectations. Know that you are in charge of enforcing those boundaries, and you can do so through questions and or disengagement. And also, it's not an absolute. Sometimes in there, if you're really, really fortunate, you find one person or two people, we're talking narcissistic family system, not just run-of-the-mill dysfunction, that will be your people that you can trust, that you build safety with, and things work out quite well. I do see that. So I'm a therapist in dealing with, I specialize in, trying to word this correctly, I've been talking for a while here. I'm a therapist that works with survivors, adult survivors of narcissistic family systems pretty exclusively. That's what I do. And I see these patterns over and over again. And in that, I also see some of my clients who are estranged, not everybody is, have really good relationships with other family members. Usually those other family members, like let's say an aunt or an uncle or something like that, have low contact relationships with the rest of them. They see each other at events and things like that. It's rare where that respect and that close relationship is with a person who's literally standing in two places at the same time. Like, you can't stand with abusers and with the victim. It just doesn't work, right? So when those relationships are distant because they don't want to not have an entire family, they're very likely to stand with the victim because they understand why that person doesn't want a high contact or any contact relationship with those other family members. When you have someone who's trying to be close on both sides, they're not usually a safe person. So I hope this helps you, and thank you for the question.